and we're going to talk about this verse again, but I just hope that you guys can realize how immense God's love for us is. And when the world tells us that we need to be a certain way or we need to change something about ourselves, it's not true. We are perfectly made in God's image, and yeah, I just hope that you guys can sort of dwell in that verse.
Okay, so for those of you who don't know me, I'm Tori Maru, and I am a registered dietitian, so that's what I do for a living, is talk to people about nutrition. I also own Wonderfully Made Bakery downstairs, as many of you guys know. A lot of your parents buy from me. One of the reasons that I am so passionate about this topic is because in college I definitely struggled with body dysmorphia and body image issues. I always wanted to be thinner. I was always looking at other people like they were more worthy than I was because of their body versus my body. And after going through some pretty traumatic things in my life, I also developed a binge eating disorder and struggled with that for 2 to 3 years before I actually said it out loud and started to get help for it. And so it was a constant binge restrict. I thought that restriction was the answer, and then I would fail at the restriction and I would binge again. And that was my way of coping with emotion. So Rosemary just talked about coping strategies, and binge eating was my coping strategy. I always had a great relationship with food and loved food, so I feel like I just chose something that I love so much and just used it to hurt me instead. But I will say that when I was struggling with that, the moment that everything changed was the moment that I confessed it to my best friend. And a lot of y'all know her, Liz. And as soon as I confessed it to Liz, it was like, it didn't immediately stop the binge eating, but 50% of it was immediately lifted as soon as I said the words out loud. And it just really led me down a path of wanting people to heal their relationships with food, because it's not until we heal our relationship with food that we can stop that binge and restrict cycle and that constant thought process around food and the constant shame around food. So that's where a lot of my passion comes from.
So I am not a registered dietitian. I am a college student, and I'm studying public health on the pre-med track. So I'm really passionate about how kind of we can intertwine medicine with also nutrition and just taking care of our bodies. Growing up, I sort of got very into eating healthy, and it became kind of like an obsessive relationship with food, because I wanted to, eat healthy, eat only certain things, restrict other things. And I think I've gone to a point where God has really shown me that food is nourishment, but it's not only nourishment, it's, a place where we can share food with others, be in company with others, celebrate. It's so much more than just, the calories that we're consuming. It's actually really beautiful. And I love food. I'm a big foodie. So I think just also seeing a lot of my friends go through bad relationships with food and eating disorders and body dysmorphia, it's so prevalent. And I think that if you can sort of start now breaking down those lies that the society and culture tells us about our body and food, I think it's just a way that you can have such a fuller and more abundant life, like God calls us to.
Yeah, it's that perfect reminder of our anchor verse for this weekend. The thief comes to steal, kill, and destroy, but Christ came so that we may have life and have it abundantly. And when we have a poor relationship with food, if any of y'all have experienced that, it feels like the thief has just come to steal, kill, and destroy. It's something that God created. Like, he didn't have to create taste buds. He didn't have to create food that tasted so delicious. He really didn't. He wanted us to have pleasure in food, but we have to thank him for that and not allow the enemy to come and destroy that relationship, something that he gave us as a gift.
Okay, so everyone here maybe has different backgrounds in food, but again, we want this to be interactive. So, what have you guys heard about diet culture, nutrition, anything weird? Anything true, anything not true?
What examples have we had? Yeah. What did you say?
I just said, who knows? Because some people will say one thing, and then some people say, no, that's awful. Some people will be like, that's the best thing you could do.
Amen. Yep. I mean, in the 90s it was low fat, and now it's keto. You know, if that's not the biggest example of nobody knows what they're saying or doing online, that is it. We went way far ends of the spectrum here. What else have y'all seen on social media or online about nutrition or relationships with food or anything like that? Yeah.
I know it's not true, but you hear a lot of people that are like skinny is healthy, and then you hear other people that are like skinny is not healthy.
Yeah.
And it's just like a back and forth of like
Yes.
which part of which is true or not.
Yep, absolutely. It's so confusing. And the truth is that the size of our body does not indicate our health. That it's what's going on inside of our body. We can find those things out with labs and things like that. But what's going on the outside is not a direct indicator of our health. Anything else? Yeah.
What does diet culture specifically mean?
Yes, it is. If you are on social media, for example, diet culture would be the types of videos that you come across that are just perpetuating a diet. And it could be any diet. I mean, it could be keto, it could be carnivore, it could be sugar is horrible for you. You should never eat sugar. It could be paleo. It could be anything that somebody is trying to enforce a food rule on you that is not actually necessary for us to follow in our lives. So great question. That is what I would define diet culture. Do you have anything to add about diet culture?
Yeah, I think more than just the diets, it's also like all the opinions that people put on your body. So like, oh, you have to lose 20 pounds, or you have to not eat carbs. Carbs are bad. All these social influences that are not necessarily backed by science. And it's just people that don't fully understand nutrition and like just base it off of their experience or what they've heard. So it's a lot of misinformation.
Yeah. And just like Emily was saying, it's even like the size of our bodies, like somebody trying to tell you what the size of your body should be. That is all around, diet culture. And sometimes it's masked. Sometimes it's in the, people will act like it's in the pursuit of health. But there is a eating disorder called orthorexia. And orthorexia is literally the intense pursuit of health where you are only eating healthy foods, what you deem healthy foods, and it is an intense fear of anything that is not a deemed healthy food. And it seems like it's in the pursuit of health, but in reality it's a lot is fear-based, and you're worried about what that other food will do. Anything that makes you feel shame or guilt around the food that you're choosing to eat. The beauty about having a good relationship with food is you'll tune into your body, and your body will crave a vegetable. Your body will crave something healthy to eat. But it's okay to also have those things that are delicious and indulgent to eat. And so when you have this beautiful relationship with food, you find the balance between both, where some days you're having the burger and fries and it's delicious, and some days you're like, I actually really want a salad. That sounds amazing. But you're listening to your body and you're tuning into it, and nothing's coming from shame. Great question. Anybody else on what they've heard? Okay, those are great. Yeah, please.
So, I feel like what I've heard is on my grandpa's TV, he has a whole bunch of ads. And then there are some ads where it's just like, oh, you can take shots to get skinnier. Or you can eat like all of these foods and buy like a subscription.
Yes.
And they would send it to you so you can lose weight.
Yeah. Man, honestly, we probably should have done a whole slide on GLP-1s. Because wow, those are, I feel like we need to veer a little bit, because the GLP-1s, it's scary because, so that's what you're talking about, the shots, right? GLP-1s are the shot, and some people, they need it for diabetes or something like that. Or they're at a very unhealthy weight and they need to bring that down, and the GLP-1s help them. There's a medical reason for them, but now they are being used aesthetically because there's pretty easy access to them, and actually incredibly easy access to them. And unfortunately, it's making people who are already thin lose even more weight. And I feel like that is going to pop up more and more on your social media, is just extremely thin women. And yes.
Could you talk about what it does to your bones?
Absolutely, absolutely. Goodness, y'all. GLP-1s. So I work with a lot of patients. That's my job. I meet with them telehealth. And anybody who gets on GLP-1, I always mention bone health, because the way that it works is it suppresses your appetite. And when your appetite is so dramatically suppressed, you're not getting any of those nutrient-dense foods that you need. And as women especially, when we're going through puberty, pregnancy, breastfeeding, perimenopause, those are all times when our bone health can really deteriorate if we're not taking care of our body. If we're not eating enough calories, the definition of a calorie is a unit of energy. If we're not eating enough of those calories, we're not getting enough calcium, enough protein, all of these things, our body will take from our bones. And so our bones start to get more and more brittle. And that's very dangerous, especially at the teen stage, because our bone density as women peaks around age 30, and then it starts to go down from there. So this is the time to work on your bone density. And yeah, GLP-1's incredibly scary for bone density and muscle loss as well. So when we don't get enough calories in, the very first thing that our body takes from is our muscle, because that is energy stores and that's where it can get protein from. So it starts to pull from our muscles. So it might seem like all these ladies are losing weight. They're losing muscle faster than they're losing fat, I guarantee you. And when we don't have muscle mass, we also lose bone as well. So fantastic question, fantastic thing to bring up. Yeah, it's really scary, and the fact that it's on your TV and you can just order it and it'll come to your door, you know. So, and it's going to show up more and more, and AI is going to show up more and more. I feel like I'm way veering, but man, that is something that we have to be really aware of too, is when we see things on social media. We see body image on social media and we're like, oh my gosh, well, I don't look like her. She doesn't look like her. When you're looking at TikTok and stuff, everybody has a filter on. She does not look like her. AI is fake, so that definitely doesn't look like anybody. And it's really hard. I'm 30 and I still succumb to all of those things. You know, I'll be scrolling on social media. I'm like, oh my gosh, I am starting to struggle with my body image. And then I'm like, these are fake. All of these images are so fake. Do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I think it can be really scary because we just said all this, right? Like, it's so hard to tell what's real. It's so hard to tell what's not real. It's so hard to know what's true, what's not true. Like, it's so confusing finding a good source of information. But this is why knowledge and awareness is so key. There are so many good medical databases that you can look up, like Open Evidence. Open Evidence has purely scientific research articles where you can look up something like GLP-1s, which stand for glucagon-like peptides, and you can look up what are the side effects of GLP-1s, right? I think because we don't often get our information from reliable sources, we get it from social media, influencers who don't really have a nutrition foundation, it can be really confusing. But knowledge is power, and taking the time to do the research yourself, if you're curious, is actually very amplifying for your confidence and your awareness.
Yeah, that's such a great point. Always think about where you're getting your information from. Like, is this a professional? Most of the time, especially on social media, it will not be a professional. So, anybody else? Those are all really great questions. Yeah, please.
I know that there's a lot of like wanting to change your body image for like a person, whether it's someone like you like or like one of your friends, because like
Yeah.
you feel out of place.
Yeah.
Did either of y'all ever have like an experience that y'all wanted to do that in?
Yeah, when you wanted to change your, I remember experiencing that when I went off to college, because I wasn't thankfully was not very aware of my body growing up, and I was a swimmer and all those things, but for whatever reason, the Lord's protection kept me from looking at my body too much. But when I got to college, I definitely looked at other girls' bodies and I was like, they were tanner than me, and you know, and so I definitely experienced plenty of times where I was trying to change my body size for other people, and it is so isolating, you know, like, because like Sophia was saying, food is so much more than just calories, right, or nutrition. It's also sharing experiences with other people, sharing cultures, sharing meals, having relationships with people. And when you are so afraid to eat because of the calories that are in a food, then you miss out on a lot of those experiences. And let me tell you, those experiences are fun. You know, like, it's a lot more fun than sitting in your dorm counting calories. I remember making these little 100-calorie frozen dessert things, and before I could eat them, I had to go on a 1-mile walk because that burned 100 calories. And that was such an isolating time in my life. I had horrible relationships. I had no self-worth. And it wasn't until I healed that part that I was able to make more peace with my body as well. Sophia, did you ever experience anything like that? Or any of your friends?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, a lot of my friends grew up with eating disorders like anorexia, binge eating disorders, so I saw them go through what it felt like to think that your worth and your identity was found in your body, and it made my heart ache for them. And I think with myself, I think I have such high expectations for myself, and I can be really hard on myself, and that's something that I've had to really work through. So the way that I looked, it was more so like I need to look this way because I have to look this way. It was very much sort of like self-obsessed. Like I had to give that to God and just realize that my identity is not found in my body. And, you know, that can go the same for if you're trying to appease someone else or try to fit into someone else's standards of how they think that their body should look like, and therefore your body should look like. And I think that can be seen in like comments about someone making a comment about their own body. So like, let's say, this has happened before, but let's say you're getting ready with a friend to go out to a restaurant or for a birthday party, whatever it may be, and they make a comment about them needing to lose weight, or saying that their like waist isn't skinny enough, you know, then you go and you internalize those thoughts into your own mind, and you're like, I need to lose weight, I need to be thinner. So I think a lot of it has to do with who you surround yourself with, and I think that those friendships you have to really protect, and you just have to allow God to put people in your life that are going to uplift you and not make your body your identity. So I think that was kind of a tangent, but 100%. I think it's so easy to fall into that.
I think the biggest takeaway from that is if somebody comments about your body or your body size or wants to change or like implies that you should change your body size, that's an insecurity from them. And I'm sure your parents have said some sort of form of that. Like that really is a them problem. They have issues with their own body, and so they want to try to change yours. When in reality, that's something, you know, Rosemary was talking about. Like, these are just things that happen in our childhood that we don't really fully form thoughts around, but they continue to affect us again and again and again.
And this is just a tangent, but nobody should ever be making a comment about your body. The way that it looks, if you've gained weight, if you've lost weight, that is something that is not okay. And I think we normalize it a lot, but it really affects us. So if that ever does happen, maybe you can talk to an adult that can talk to that adult, or whoever it was that said that thing. But also just setting boundaries. If it was a friend, setting boundaries, and maybe saying like, that's not okay, like, why do you feel like you need to comment on my body? But just realizing that that's not okay, and it's not normal either.
And you know, it starts with you guys, like around your friend groups. If somebody is constantly commenting about body and you're not fully comfortable confronting them, just change the subject, you know, and I think as women it's a very common thing to, as you see somebody, you comment on their body. You may say, you look great, or something like that, but I would encourage you to say something about their character, you know, like you're glowing today, like you just are radiating Christ today, or you are always so kind to me, or having comments that are not about somebody's appearance, but instead about their character and their heart. And I think that would be a really great place for y'all to start changing the culture and the places that God has already put you in.
we should go on.
yes, we should. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe you guys have seen this verse before, but just once again reiterating that your body is a temple and it is made to glorify the Lord. It is a vessel for carrying out the works that He has called us to do, for, you know, showing the fruits of the Spirit that He has given us. And we can kind of move a little faster, but, you know, your body is incredible and it is so much more than just your appearance.
So we wanted to give you some very basic nutrition things because, again, you're going to hear things that are not true about certain nutrients. So I wanted to give you just the very basic things. Number one, carbohydrates. That's probably what you're going to hear the most about. And I'm here to tell you that carbs are our body's favorite source of energy. They are our brain's only source of energy and fuel. And so carbohydrates, if you are ever feeling low energy and you have had a carbohydrate-based snack, you will notice that suddenly you have energy. That's because that's how God created our bodies. Carbohydrates are our main energy source. We, of course, need protein to build our muscle, our hair, skin, nails. Yeah.
So, I feel like carbs aren't a bad thing, but as long as you do something like an activity to like use some of it and you're not overeating the calories.
That's such an important thought because the truth is there is also an area in diet culture that says if we eat calories, we have to burn off those calories. We have to go and use that energy. Did y'all know that it takes energy just sitting on the couch all day? If you do nothing all day long, it's called your basal metabolic rate, and it's anywhere probably around, for like y'all's age and size, anywhere from 1,000 to 1,500 calories of you just laying down on the couch breathing. And that's how much it takes for you to just exist. But then you walk around, you do some chores, you go to classes, you use your brain, all of that fuel for your brain. All of those things are using more and more and more energy. So you don't have to only eat carbohydrates before an activity, although they're a great source of fuel for sports. Definitely eat a banana or a piece of toast or something like that before a sport. But we need energy all day long. We need carbohydrates all day long. And so don't ever feel like you can't have a carbohydrate because you're not as active of a person. I think another great point around carbohydrates that I feel like you brought up was there's different types of carbohydrates. You know, there are the simple sugars, right? There's the refined sugars and sweets and all of those. And yeah, those aren't as nutrient dense for us, but they're an enjoyment factor, right? So it's okay to have those occasionally. And then there's also these really great carbohydrates that really do give us this great fuel: fruits, vegetables, whole grains, beans, nuts and seeds, all of those great things. So yeah, fantastic question. Yeah. Anybody else? Yeah, go ahead.
So I was wondering what kind of like snacks have carbohydrates?
Yeah, absolutely. So snack examples of carbohydrates would be things like a piece of fruit, so apple, banana, orange, those sorts of things. It would be say a grain like pretzels, or a piece of toast, a slice of bread. I'm blanking. It would also be vegetables, so if you were to dip carrots or celery or something like that, potato, all of those things have carbohydrates. Yes, great question. So protein then builds our muscle, our hair, skin, and nails as well, and all of our cells and tissues. And then fats, which is typically things like avocados, olive oil, nuts and seeds. That is going to help build our cells, but also it's important for our hormones, guys. So especially at this age, as y'all are going through puberty, hormones are so incredibly important, and we need healthy fats to help those hormones. And then it also helps us absorb all of our what's called fat-soluble vitamins, which are 4 vitamins. They're listed there. You do not need to memorize them, but just know that when you are eating fat, it's helping to absorb those vitamins in your food.
Yeah, and then this is just kind of sort of something you can keep in mind when you're serving yourself food or you're being served food. Think of like a plate, right? So a plate, circular, and you have kind of 4 different components on a plate. So half of your plate should typically be fiber. So fiber is any kind of vegetable. So think like spinach, broccoli, Brussels sprouts,
Root
kale,
vegetables, sweet
exactly,
potatoes,
sweet
potatoes,
potato.
carrots.
Exactly. Anything like that, because fiber basically fills up your stomach, and it's really important for your gut microbiome. It makes sure that your immune system is healthy. It's just incredible. Fiber is amazing. It's also good for digestion, which, awesome. And then the other kind of quarter should be protein. So think like chicken, salmon, fish, steak, any kind of protein like that. And then you want carbs, right? So carbs are super important for that short-term energy. And that can be, you know, like a brown rice. That can be more sweet potatoes. Sweet potatoes also have carbs. Bread, quinoa, exactly. There's so many examples. But I think rather than, you know, saying you need a quarter cup of brown rice or like 1 cup of protein, it's more of like a ratio. So how I like to think of it is, let's say you're building a snack. You're hungry. Instead of maybe just eating a banana, you can have a banana with maybe some Greek yogurt, which has protein. And then you can also have some fats in there. So something like a peanut butter, an almond butter. And then you can kind of build it so that it has all those 4 components, and that will keep you full. And that'll actually satiate you, and it tastes great. Who doesn't like Greek yogurt and peanut butter? Sometimes I'll build like a Greek yogurt bowl, and I'll add chocolate chips and fruit and peanut butter. It's great.
Yeah.
So kind of just keeping in mind those ratios, because when you have all those ratios, you'll actually feel full. And you'll still enjoy it, but you'll also be giving your body the nutrients that it needs to sustain itself for you to go and run in cross country or volleyball or whatever sports, even just to get through the day. So just keeping in mind those ratios and having those 4 different components, those carbohydrates, that fiber, that protein, and then those fats. Super important, but it kind of gives you a good idea if you think of it on like a plate.
Yes, absolutely. So I like to call it nutrition by addition, and this is how I frame it to all of my patients. And it's really focused on what can I add to this meal or snack to make it more nutritious or more delicious. And Sophia just gave a fantastic example of that. If you were to just grab a banana and eat the banana, it is quick carbohydrates. So you will probably be full in the next 30 minutes to an hour because it didn't sustain you for very long. But if we add things to that banana, that's where we start to feel full and have that sustained energy. So we add the protein like the Greek yogurt, we add the healthy fats like the peanut butter, and then, I love that Sophia mentioned this, she then added chocolate chips to her yogurt bowl sometimes, and that's that satisfaction factor. We need flavor in our meals. How depressing would it be if we just all ate chicken, rice, and broccoli all the time? Horrible. At least add a sauce on there, you know? At least. And so we need that flavor, we need that contentment that comes from adding flavor. And that's that's a perfect example. A little bit of chocolate chips, it goes a long way. It gives you that satisfaction, and you're having it alongside so many nutritious things. And so love that example. That's a perfect nutrition by addition.
And I just want to add one more thing. There is no food that is bad. I just hate when people are like, oh, carbs are bad or sugar is bad. Nothing is bad as long as it's in moderation. And I think also when we say like, oh, I can't have this certain food group or this certain snack, I think it actually, psychologically, it makes our brain want it more.
Absolutely.
And then when we restrict it, we can go into cycles of eating a lot of it. So if you've ever like told yourself like, oh, I can't have that snack, but then maybe you're by yourself later and you're like, oh my gosh, I want the snack so badly. It's not because your body really wants it, but it's because you've told yourself that you can't have it. So it's something to do with your brain and how it works. So just telling yourself that no food is necessarily bad and restriction is not the answer. It's actually adding how you can make things more nutritious, more enjoyable, really, because food is meant to be enjoyed. I think that really helps with just having a better relationship with food.
Absolutely, 100%. Yeah.
Can you just clarify, like, no food is bad, like a bag of Takis or a bag of roof fries?
Sure.
Because I know some of our teens want to snack on those things.
I get that. And here's the thing about that. We don't want any food shame around certain foods, but it is your whole of a diet. If you're having Takis every single day, day after day, okay, we might need to look at that, and maybe we can pick a better option like tortilla chips and guacamole, so that you're having now a corn, which is a whole grain, and you're having guacamole, which is a healthy fat. So thinking about things that, like, I love chips and guac, so like that's a great snack for me, you know. And so thinking, okay, I'm having a lot of Takis. That's not the best fuel for my body. What else would I enjoy that would be better fuel for my body, but will still give me that satisfaction, like the crunch, right? We all love the crunch of a chip, but now I'm taking a chip that's a little bit better for me, and I'm dipping it in something that has healthy fats, and so it's going to sustain me for longer. So that's the way that I would approach it. There's no foods that are off limits, because just like Sophia said, if you tell yourself I can never eat a Taki ever again, you will psychologically be obsessed with Takis. But if you tell yourself I can have Takis, but also guys, I want you to focus on how those foods make you feel. Because when we focus on how foods make us feel, that's when we start to realize, okay, wait, I don't want to have that. Like, I love donuts. I'm not going to eat a donut every single morning for breakfast because I have things to do that day. I will go and take a nap for an hour if I have a donut for breakfast. It gives me a blood sugar spike and then I crash. But my brain needs to function all day long. So I choose to have a healthier, more nutrient dense breakfast. And I save a donut for an occasional weekend when I know I might have some time to rest on the couch and nap, because I know how that makes me feel. And so pay attention when you're eating the processed foods. Pay attention to how it makes you feel. Really focus, like, do I want to feel like that today? And you get to make that decision for yourself. I saw that you had a question, Amelia.
So about the whole like Taki thing,
Yeah.
my mom, instead of getting me Takis, she gets me the Sprouts brand,
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
which is like a lot healthier.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you like those?
Yeah, perfect.
Awesome. Yeah, so that's a great example. We can always, in today's world, there's so many healthier options, right? So buying a healthier option is a great choice. I will also warn against, if you are craving a brownie and you suddenly make sweet potato brownies or black bean brownies or something like that, and you try it and you're like, this is disgusting, you will not only eat that entire pan of brownies trying to get that craving, but then you will also go out and buy a brownie because you're like, okay, now I give up. So sometimes it's better to just choose that indulgent food, but I would definitely encourage you, like, try those healthier versions. You know, I like the healthier tortilla chips, and I like the healthier granola bars, and I like the healthier cereals. You know, they're all really good. Go ahead.
About what you were just saying about the brownie.
Yeah.
I know, like, a lot of times at home, I'll be like, Mom, like, I'm craving this or that, but she's my mom,
Yeah.
so she can tell me no.
Sure.
And she'll be like, you can have this instead because it's still sweet. And I'm like, but it's
what
not,
you're craving.
yeah, so, like,
No, I
would
get that.
would you, like,
Your mom's right there.
yeah. My mom, love you.
I'll talk to her. No, that. Okay, so I do have a lot to talk about that. Number one, like Rosemary said, parents are all just trying to do their best, and they want the healthiest, most abundant lives for you, right? And so it is a very common thing that when our child craves a dessert to go, oh, it's fine, grab an apple. I have again realized that sometimes we're not craving an apple. We just want some chocolate, you know? And having that little square of chocolate, then it's gone. If we have the apple, and then we go back and we're like, okay, I still shouldn't have the brownie. I'll do a rice cake with peanut butter. That, and sprinkle some chocolate chips. That will satisfy my craving. And then it doesn't. And then you go back, and now you've eaten some sweet things, and now you're like, oh, well, now I want salty. And I mean, this is exactly what I faced in my binge restrict cycle. I would do the same thing. Oh, I shouldn't have that, so I'm going to eat that instead. And it never satisfied the craving. And I ended up eating so many things before I finally just gave into the craving, and then ate a ton of that as well. And now with my healthier relationship with food, I'm able to just have a bite of what I want and move on with my day. Now, also, you know, your mom might not always keep brownies stocked, but, you know, and I think there's also healthy boundaries around foods that parents set for us.
I remember when I was growing up that the family that I would always go over to dinner, they had a 3 Oreo rule. That's a fine rule, you know? We don't need to have more than 3 Oreos after dinner. Have the 3 Oreos, but it didn't feel like restriction to me. It just felt like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. 3 Oreos. And so they might set healthy boundaries for you because you're still learning about what your body feels like, and they're trying to do their best for you and they want you to feel healthy. But yeah, I would say talk to her and be like, but this is what I'm craving. And if it's in the house and you can have a smaller portion of it, you might find that that satisfies your craving and you're just done, you know? I'm definitely a sweet treat after dinner, my person.
Yeah. I would. Okay, I have 2 things.
Yeah.
So we're throwing around this word healthy a lot. There's a lot of confusion maybe about what that means, but at least to me, healthy just means whole foods most of the time and less processed. So when we think of like healthy snacks, we can look at the nutrition label and we can see maybe it just has, I don't know, peanuts, oil, and salt. That would be a really good option because it's mostly whole foods and very little processed, right? And then also, when we're thinking about like snacks, right? Also, I would ask yourself, have I eaten before? Because sometimes we can have cravings just because we're hungry. And our body realizes that maybe something that's high in sugar and carbs, like a brownie, is going to give us a lot of energy, and we're just hungry. So I would ask myself, have I had like a good dinner? Did I eat enough nutrients? And then if you're still hungry after that and you want that brownie, that's great. Have it. But just thinking through, like, have I eaten enough food?
Yes.
And then eating it.
A lot of the times we have sweet cravings because we haven't eaten enough throughout the day. If y'all do not eat breakfast, that is a big reason for sweet cravings at the end of the day. I know, I'm staring at these girls because it's just y'all's age, I'm like, y'all don't eat breakfast. And y'all need to eat breakfast. Because really giving yourself that nutrition first thing in the morning, it makes a big difference by the time the evening comes around because you have fueled your body all day long. You have less of those cravings. When you starve yourself all day long and then you finally eat dinner and those floodgates open, then you're like, oh, give me everything, and then you're really starving. So yes, definitely eat consistently throughout the day. I think that's such a great point. Sometimes we're just searching for energy, and in reality, if we would have just eaten consistently throughout the day, we would have less of those cravings in the evening. So check your past meals and everything like that. Make sure you get enough carbs because that also helps with sugar cravings. Go ahead.
So I have meds which makes me not hungry. Just because I need it for school.
Yeah.
Do you know any ways that I can like remind myself to eat?
Yeah, I work with some patients who are also on meds that struggle with appetite. Something that we do is we set alarms so that they can just get the alarm and then they eat right when the alarm goes off. So because that hunger cue isn't there in the same way, you know, we always talk about listening to our bodies. Eat when you're hungry, stop when you're full. But when medications mess with that, we sometimes have to do it a little bit more artificially and go, okay, no, it's been 3 hours since the last time that I ate. My body needs fuel, so I'm going to eat this snack. So yeah, I would encourage you to set an alarm on something every like 3 hours at least, 3 to 4 hours throughout the day to make sure that you're eating something. Because I would imagine once that medication wears off, then it's like, okay, now I'm really hungry. But we want that consistent fuel throughout the day. If the definition of calories is a unit of energy, then we want to eat the majority of our calories while we're using energy. We don't want to just all eat them right before bed. We want to be able to use that throughout the day so that we feel better. Yeah. Y'all, we are, I think, almost out of time. Sissy, 5 minutes? Okay, wonderful, awesome. Okay, so we're gonna fast forward because if this is okay with you, we want to talk about why this is also important, why it's so important to take care of our bodies. And so I would love to just, yeah. Okay, do you want to take this one?
Yeah.
Okay, beautiful.
Do like half and half.
Perfect.
Okay, so we talked about the verse at the beginning about how we glorify God through our body and the way that we take care of our body. Honestly, that's the main message here. You know, we talk about nutrition and there's so much to that, but at the end of the day, our focus is how through that nutrition, through that exercise, through our relationships, how that amplifies our ability to glorify God, right? So the first part is nourishment. You talked a lot about that. Nutrition, getting your body the right nutrients so that you can have energy, that you can be joyful, that you can abound in just light and be able to move forward with your day, right? That's like the bare minimum, right? You deserve that food and you need to eat just to have that energy. Then you have movement. So how can you make your body feel good and feel its best? And make sure you're getting out the energy that you consumed so that you can feel rested at the end of the day, that you can sleep well. And also movement is so beautiful because you get to see what your body's capable of. Like, I want to run a half marathon next year. And so just thinking about how being able to run that long of a distance, that is awesome. Like, that is so cool that we can do that. Whether that's movement in sports, in a future career in sports, whatever that may be, exercise, walking, movement is awesome. And then thoughts. So this is probably the hardest one just because there are so many influences on how we're supposed to think about our bodies, how we're supposed to look, all these things that the world tells us about our body, but we need to combat that with what the Word tells us about our body. And I think just taking the time to be in the Word and kind of rewiring how our brain works, rewiring those thoughts, that is one of the best ways that we can glorify God, because then we're rooted in His Word, and nothing can shake you when you're rooted in His Word.
Yeah, absolutely. The next one is rest. And rest is absolutely glorifying to God because it acknowledges, like taking a Sabbath, for example, it acknowledges that we are human and God is God. And we don't have to strive 24/7 to figure it all out. We can rest and trust that God has it handled, and it's also restorative to our bodies. It's not good to constantly go, 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 and that also drains our bodies. Service. So all of these things, all of the ways that we're taking care of our bodies allows us to serve others and have the energy to serve others. And lastly, relationships. We want y'all to prioritize healthy relationships in your life. I know that it can be difficult if you have a friend that just doesn't really feel like they have a healthy relationship with food or with their body, and it's constantly kind of tearing you down. I would encourage you to have a conversation with them, or set healthy boundaries around talking about those things, because we want to be surrounded by people who are going to build us up and point us back to Christ, not people who are going to constantly remind us about the world, society's standards on our body and food. So we had this little exercise, and we don't necessarily have time to do it, but I wanted to walk through it. Well, Sophia's going to walk through it, but this way you can just kind of have this framework for when these thoughts do pop up. This is kind of the framework that we would love for y'all to use.
Yeah, it's pretty simple. You see it on the board, but think of maybe a moment where someone has said something about your body, even something that maybe you've told yourself about your body that you needed to change, or maybe a comment that someone made. Just kind of think of that in your brain right now. When you think of that, how did that comment make you feel? Did you feel like you needed to take action on that comment? Did you feel like you deserved less love, less respect? Did you feel like you centered your identity on that comment? How did that kind of tear down your identity, right? And those are all human things. I mean, I've struggled with it. I think it's so hard just because of the society that we live in. But then taking that emotion and once again rooting yourself in the Word and seeing what God says about our body. In preparation for this, I read so many beautiful verses about how God sees us as precious in His eyes, how we are perfect and that there's nothing at all wrong with us. How we are beautifully and wonderfully made, and what that means. I mean, just the way that God loves us, there is nothing that compares. And I think when you combat those comments and all those things that people say with God's love, nothing compares. It's just abounding and overwhelming, and it's overflowing. So if you have time this week or today, and just kind of think about it. You don't have to write it down, but think about how maybe a comment maybe made you feel, and then how a verse in the Bible can kind of combat that comment. I think that's really powerful, especially when you're maybe spiraling down, having those self-doubts or lack of self-confidence. you find that in God instead. You find that God confidence. Yeah, and it's just a good exercise anytime you're feeling down or struggling with your confidence.
Awesome. Y'all asked so many great questions today. That was going to be our last slide, was about questions. Oh, and now my clicker is not working, which is perfect timing because it's time to go. Oh, okay. It's still not working. But anyways, it's fine. We're just about to close it in prayer. So Sophia, will you pray for us?
Lord, thank you so much for the beautiful, precious daughters that you have in this room. Lord, you are such a God that loves. Lord, you are near to the brokenhearted. Lord, you save those who are crushed in spirit. And I pray that in this moment, if there's any girl in here who has been hurt by words, who has been cut down, Lord, who has made to be believed that they are less, Lord, I pray that you just come to them and you show them where their identity is found, Lord, and it is in you. Lord, a God that loves, a God that abounds in absolute love for us, Lord, who sees us as perfect, who sees us as precious daughters of the one true King. Lord, I pray that you show these girls that that is true, Lord, and that nothing else that society, that the world says is not true, Lord. You are the one who we seek for love, for information, for identity, Lord. Let us be grounded in you. And I just pray, Lord, as these girls leave today, that they know that they are precious, that they are beautiful, and that their souls are what God, you seek after. Thank you for this time and for just being in this room with us. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, guys.